Hi there. As much as I love using Notion, I recently made the switch to Evernote after giving Notion a good, genuine chance for several months. And I think I realized after I made the switch back to Evernote that it really was not the best choice for me. Notion is a great app. I still use it for a lot of different things, but for me personally, in my type of personality and preference, Notion just was not working for me. And in today's video, I want to share a few different reasons why I made the switch back to Evernote, because I know a lot of people out there are debating which app is better. Let me share my perspective, and I hope this helps you decide which one's good for you. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is actually getting information into Evernote or Notion. For me, I really prefer the share extension on Evernote. It is much more advanced and robust. Whenever I'm browsing a web page, I can press the Evernote extension. It'll share a simplified version of the article or just the full web page, whatever I decide, directly into Evernote for me. I could even choose which notebook it will go into. Notion does have a similar feature with their web clipper, but it's nowhere near as advanced as the Evernote version. But the one thing I find very valuable in Evernote's share feature is the forward to Evernote email option. I can forward any of my emails into Evernote by simply forwarding the email to my Evernote email address. It works so well, and I find I'm using this so much more than I ever thought I ever would. It's just such a functional feature to have. With Notion, there's no way to forward your email into a Notion database or a Notion page. This may change with the new rollout of the Notion API, but Evernote has had this for as long as I can remember. I never used it before, but now in today's world, I'm using email a lot more for different life things, and forwarding documents from my email into Evernote, like attachments or just emails themselves, has been such a blessing. It's made my life so much easier. I can't see myself working without this feature anymore. This is a big, big plus for Evernote. The next reason why I made the switch over to Evernote from Notion was that in Notion, I was feeling a lot of pressure to keep things complicated. Now, I know that sounds a bit ridiculous. Why in the world would you want to keep things complicated? But in Notion, you have this constant pressure over you of learning how to do things and making a more efficient system. Because there's no structure or anything like that, you're kind of just making things up as you go, and you keep advancing your knowledge and you keep refining your system. And with Notion, there's so many distractions, like adding an emoji for every little page, adding cover art, formatting, just creating a page structure, databases. I found myself spending way more time on those things than my actual content and the actual things I had to be focusing on. So yeah, in Notion, you do have way more flexibility, you have more features, you can build more custom systems, and that might be a good thing, but what I found 90% of the time, it was actually distracting me, and that was a big reason why I switched over to Evernote. All of that time came back to me. I found myself focusing on the content, not where the content was supposed to go or how it looked. Now, this brings me to the third reason why I switched over to Evernote, and that is simply the simple structure and hierarchy that Evernote has compared to Notion. In Notion, you are responsible for building out your page hierarchy. You can have hundreds of pages, you can have one page with the one database, or you can have several databases, several different pages. It's really up to you. You can make it whatever you want it to be. And because of that freedom, like I said before, I was just really spending more time on the page structure. In Evernote, the structure is given to you. All you have to do is title a notebook, and all your notes go under that notebook. If you want to make a second notebook, you can do that. It's very simple. No complicated hierarchy. There's no crazy amount of subpages. You just have notebooks and notes. Evernote makes it so much easier to stay focused, and there's no complicated way of finding anything. The search is so advanced. You can find all your notes so easily, whereas in Notion, it's very easy to get lost in your own system. That's one reason why I just couldn't stand Notion anymore. I was just getting lost all the time. Evernote, it's very clear. It's like having a physical notebook. All your stuff will be in that notebook, and you can create a second notebook for different topics. It just makes life so much more simple and easy to use. Now, the last reason why I switched to Evernote, this is really ridiculous, but it's actually a big reason, is simply speed and reliability. With Notion, I found them actually having downtime quite a bit. At least when I was using it a few months ago, earlier this year, it was going down quite often, and there was one time where I just lost access to all my notes because Notion was down. They don't really have a very good offline viewer. There were some really big problems with that, and I need a reliable app. With Evernote, they've been around for a very long time. They don't really have that kind of outage usually, and it's just much more reliable. Also with Notion, things get very, very slow. On the mobile app especially, loading up notes could take forever. Also on the desktop app, I've had times where things don't load very quickly. On Evernote, it could be sluggish, but I know it's gonna work. It doesn't take that long. Same thing on the mobile app, it works pretty well. And there's also a web app that works really well. It is really reliable. Notion, sometimes it's really fast, other times it's really slow. I don't like that. I wanna have a consistent, reliable app, and Evernote for me has been doing that very, very well. So to recap here, the 4 reasons why I use Evernote over Notion is that share extension and the forwarding to email feature. That's a really big deal breaker for me for Notion. Evernote has that, Notion does not. On top of that, we have less pressure associated with making your notes look nice or formatting them or anything like that. Evernote is just very, very simple and bare bones notes. I really enjoyed that as well. Also, next reason is Notion is just simply too complicated to build a page structure and hierarchy. With Evernote, you're given that for you. And then lastly, speed and reliability in Evernote seems to be much better compared to Notion, in my experience at least. I still do use Notion for my content calendar and YouTube work. I find databases and Kanban boards and calendars in Notion are great for content management, but for life notes and everything else in my life, Evernote does a much, much better job. Now, if you enjoyed this video, chances are you'll like my review of my task manager called Things 3. I love productivity, and that is another app that I use every single day like Evernote and Notion. Things is a great app to keep organized. Check that video out, link on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.